New York Jets schedule that has been officially released. I kind of touched on the Ravens game the other day. Ravens week 1 in New York. I think this is even on 9/11, I want to say. But that's a super tough game to start off your season if you're the Jets. And then it gets harder as well because game 2, depending on how things play out, the Cleveland Browns are a very good team. And if Deshaun Watson is somehow playing week one and week 2, then like they're playing potentially like a playoff team that could go deep in the playoffs. I'd feel a lot more confident if Deshaun Watson got suspended. Obviously, I don't even know how all that's gonna go. And I'm not. I don't say that to say I'm like rooting for him to be suspended. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just looking at this from a Jets fan perspective. Is if he's not playing, then the Jets have a much better chance to win that football game. And then we come back home and play the Bengals week 3. I mean, the Bengals just went to the Super Bowl and then they revamped their entire offensive line. Like they're going to be a tough team to beat. And then the Steelers, I think they have a tough defense, but like they're ultimately going to have Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, or a rookie quarterback behind center and Kenny Pickett. So like that out of the first 4 games, I'd say I'm most confident that we could get a win there. But also like the Steelers are a good football team, and for the Jets, we're going to get tested right off the bat. And it's the NFL, and like we eventually like we have to hold the team accountable, and we have to have some sort of expectations for the New York Jets. And it's like I wish we could play the Jags and the Lions in week 1 and 2, so we could start off with easier games. But that's not how the NFL works, and ultimately like you're still going to have to win X amount of games towards the end of the season to make the playoffs and to move further. So if you start, 2-2 or 1-3, like that's going to be tough. But it's not something that can't be overcame, especially with a 17-game season. And then week 5, we play the Dolphins. I'm hoping that this year with the Dolphins, we can at least split the series. Um, the Dolphins made a ton of improvements as well in the offseason, but it's going to be another thing like just how good is Tua? Is Tua able to take that next step, or are we going to see a lot more of what we've seen in the past? And if that's the case and Tua's not able to kind of get the most out of Tyreek Hill and the new running backs and everything they have, then there's a good chance that the Jets could take those games. And then week 6, another super difficult game in Green Bay against the Packers. That's going to be tough, playing one of the best quarterbacks of all time. But also, like, there's few things to look forward to in all these games because the Jets have really overall improved the offense and defense. And like the Packers, for example, they haven't really done too much at the receiver position. Like I'm not too scared of any receiver currently on the Packers, so we'll see how that goes. And then from the Packers, we go to Denver. We play the Broncos. Um, like obviously we'll have to see how the first few games go for them, but they're in prime position to look really good. I know Russell Wilson's one of the best QBs in football, and then I think Jerry Jeudy has having some trouble with the law. I'm curious to see like how serious is that. I'm pretty sure he's probably still going to play and everything, so we'll see if anything factors into that. And then week 8 we play the Patriots. The Patriots aren't the Patriots that they used to be, but we still got murdered by them last year. So that one I'm like a little iffy on. I don't know if they're going to just murder us or are we going to make that next step and compete with them this year. And then week 9 we play the Buffalo Bills, another very tough division rival, a team that could potentially go all the way this year. They're a very good football team and they've made a lot of good moves this offseason. And then we get the bye week and then we play the Patriots again in New England. So I'm hoping that again, like I'll say that with Miami and I'll say it with the Patriots. Please just go 1-1. If we could win one, lose one, that's cool. I just don't want to get shut out again in the division like we have in the last few years. And then we play Chicago week 12. That's actually a very good matchup. I like some pieces Chicago has. I really like Justin Fields. I just don't think that Chicago has done a whole lot to put weapons around him. And not only that, like the offensive line they have over there isn't the best either. So I like that matchup. And then we go to Minnesota for week 13. And I think that's a decent matchup too. Like Minnesota is one of those teams that's probably going to hover around the 500 mark, maybe get a couple games above it. So we'll see how that goes. That should be a fun game. And then week 14 we go into Buffalo and we play the Bills. I mean, I would love to beat the Bills a game this year. Like last year the Bills lost to the Jags. So truly anything is possible in football. But also if I had to like pick a team that I don't expect us to beat this year in division specifically, I don't expect us to beat the Bills. Um, I'd love for it to happen. I just expectation wise, being a Jets fan, like I have to have reasonable expectations, you know. And then week 15 we play the Lions, so I'm stoked for this one because the Lions I think are a perfect matchup for the Jets. I think the Jets can win this game, and then week 16 we play the Jags. So a couple games in a row that we have a good chance to win in. Obviously, like when you get to week 15, week 16, who knows what the health of your team looks like and all that stuff and where you are with the rest of the season. So, some of those things might play a factor. So hopefully this year we can have some health because I think, I don't want to say that we're going to go to the playoffs. I think that would be talking a little bit too soon. But if we're looking at like a 7-9, 7-10 game, like winning season, and by that I mean like we win between 7 and 10 games, I think that's reasonable. And I also think that's a very good improvement from what we had last year. And if we do that, then we definitely have had an improvement out of our quarterback, Zach Wilson, in year 2. And then the final 2 games of the year, we play in Seattle against the Seahawks. I always want to see that game because I want to burn it in even more about the Jamal Adams trade. Like now the Seattle Seahawks don't have Russ, so I don't see them being a playoff contender or anything like they would have been had they had Russ. And I mean, obviously they weren't last year, but people typically talk about them as a playoff team when they had Russ. So they've got a worse team, and now we have finally made all the draft picks that we got for Jamal Adams. So like we got a chance for Garrett Wilson to put up a touchdown on Jamal Adams, and I think that would be amazing. Like I'm still salty about it. Like when Jamal Adams was on the Jets, he was one of my favorite players. And then just the way that he left the Jets, I hated it. And then week 18 we play the Dolphins, in Miami. So that game could potentially have some outcomes tied to it because even last year I think the Dolphins were in the run for the playoffs. So we'll see how the rest of the AFC East shapes up.